Well, hello, Iowa State Fair once again. I'm Kyle Munson, the Iowa columnist for the Des Moines Register. We're here at the Des Moines Register Political Soapbox. It's a soggy soapbox today, but we press on. It's important issues. We've had candidates out here every day. We'll have more coming this weekend. And you can go to DesMoinesRegister.com to see many of the candidates that we filmed here and provided live video coverage for throughout the week. We have another candidate stepping up now. We have Bryan Jack Holder. He's running for Congress in the 3rd District. He is from Council Bluffs, in southwest Iowa. His opponents in the race are Democrat Stacey Apple of Ackworth, Republican David Young of Van Meter, and there's another third-party candidate in the race, Libertarian Edward Wright of Guthrie Center. They seek to replace the longtime Congressman Tom Latham, a Republican who is retiring. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Holder.
Thank you very much. Oh, I don't need that. I'm good. Yep. Thank you. I want to thank the Des Moines Register and the Iowa State Fair for giving me this opportunity to speak here today. I'm running for Congress in the 3rd District, and I'm doing this just to be a voice for all the little people of the world who feel that this government and sometimes the parties don't exactly represent our best interest, and I'm just here to be the voice of liberty. So I grew up in Council Bluffs, Iowa. I've lived there my whole life. I went to college on a basketball scholarship. As you might assume, I'm 6'7", and I wasn't able to play college basketball due to a back injury, but I completed my studies at Bellevue University in Bellevue, Nebraska, and earned my BS in psychology, and then I attended law school at Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska. And I graduated there in 1998. And the reason I'm here is that, frankly, there's not enough of us involved in the government right now. The parties sort of have a stranglehold on the government at the federal, state, and local level. And I'm doing this to hopefully inspire other people to get involved in the civic process and to run for Congress. I've run my own campaign. I haven't relied on anyone else. And thankfully in Iowa, you only need signatures to get on the ballot for all offices, so you don't have to pay a filing fee. And over the last 7 weeks, I went around my community in Pottawatomie County, and I got over 400 signatures to appear on the ballot in November. And at the introduction, they said, you know, I've got opponents running in this race, but as far as I'm concerned, I really don't have any opponents. We're all Iowa. We're all Iowa citizens here. And I remember 25 years ago, I came up to Des Moines, up to the old Veterans Memorial Coliseum to play basketball for the state championship. And, you know, our jerseys didn't say whether we were a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or an Independent on it. We all had the same team name, and we all did this thing together. Before I started my campaign, I did a little bit of research to find out exactly why there are only 435 congressional districts in this country of 315 million people. And I'd ask all of you to ask your congressman when you go to these town halls why there's only 435 people to represent 300+ million people. And the reason is that there's a constitutional defect that I discovered back in January. The original Bill of Rights, which was passed by the first Congress and written by our founding fathers and framers of our Constitution, the very first article that they included in the Bill of Rights was called Article the First. And I advise anyone that's interested in this to Google this. And Article the First would have limited a congressional district to 50,000 people. 50,000 people. Our district here has 760,000 people. And what that essentially means is that, according to the founding generation, there should be 15 little districts, and that way everyone that lives within this giant district receives enough representation in Congress and in our government. But now, I just read a report yesterday that the average citizen has little to no impact upon elections. We have little to no impact in the laws that affect our lives, and we don't have a say in our government. And this is absolutely wrong. It's 2014, we're in the digital age, we've got the internet. We should have more transparency and accountability and responsibility from our elected officials. And it seems that as the days go on, more and more we have less and less transparency. They go away to Washington and we have no idea what they're doing. And it's almost a full-time job just to keep up on all the issues that affect our daily lives and all the scandals that are going on. And these scandals aren't just in the Obama administration. There have been things that have been going on for probably 100, 150 years. So I'm here to ask the other candidates that, if they are willing to do what I'm doing. I'm willing to not take a paycheck to run for Congress. I haven't asked a single person for a penny to run for this office. And I've spent less than $200 of my own funds to get up here on the stage and to get on the ballot. Now, in 2 years, I want to see more of you up here on this stage. I want to see more of my fellow citizens that get their names on the ballot, because what I've found is that the politicians don't care about us after Election Day. They don't care. You send them an email and it goes into a black hole somewhere. But the media and your fellow citizens can't ignore the fact that you've got your name on the ballot, that you've demonstrated that you have a viewpoint that's worth listening to. So I want to be able to show other people that they can do this, they can get on the ballot, and they can be an advocate for whatever issues that they feel are important to them. On the way up here, I was listening to a radio program on WHO, and they did a little news break, and I didn't realize it, but 41 years ago today, the United States went off of the gold standard. And since that day, during the Nixon administration, our money has become more and more and more inflated every day, every year. And this punishes the worker, this punishes people that save money, and I fear that one of these days our dollar is going to be so hyperinflated that it's absolutely worthless. If anyone goes to the grocery store to buy groceries and you see how little food that your money buys these days, the price of fuel is probably higher than it should be, and we need to do everything we can to reinstitute a sound currency system in this country. Because right now our currency, our dollar, it says on the back of it, it says, "In God we trust." Well, I do trust in God, but I don't trust this government to ensure that our currency doesn't collapse, and that's a grave concern to me and to many others. It seems that our currency these days is only supported by empty promises and sometimes threats of violence. So I'm going to read an excerpt from Thomas Jefferson, a letter that he wrote in 1816, where he talks about the dangers of the public debt and what it does to our society. And this was a letter from then retired President Thomas Jefferson to Samuel Kercheval, Monticello, July 12, 1860. And it says, quote, "I am not among those who fear the people. They, and not the rich, are our dependents for continued freedom. And to preserve their independence, we must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. We must make our election between economy and liberty, or profusion and servitude. If we run into such debts as that, we must be taxed in our meat and in our drink, in our necessaries and our comforts, in our labors and our amusements, for our callings and our creeds, as the people of England are. Our people, like them, must come to labor 16 hours in the 24, give the earnings of 15 of these to the government for their debts and daily expenses, and 16th being insufficient to afford us bread, we must live, as they do now, on oatmeal and potatoes. Have no time to think, no means of calling the mismanagers to account, but be glad to obtain subsistence by hiring ourselves to rivet their chains on the necks of our fellow sufferers. Our landholders too, like theirs, retaining indeed the title and stewardship of estates called theirs, but held really in trust for the treasury, must wander, like theirs, in foreign countries, and be contented with penury, obscurity, exile, and the glory of the nation. This example reads to us the salutary lesson that private fortunes are destroyed by public as well as private extravagance. And this is the tendency of all human governments. A departure from principle in one instance becomes a precedent for a second, that second for a third, and so on, till the bulk of the society is reduced to be mere automatons of misery, and to have no sensibilities left but for sinning and suffering. Then begins, indeed, the bellum omnium in omnia, which is the war of all against all, which some philosophers, observing to be so general in this world, have mistaken it for the natural, instead of the abusive state of man. And the forehorse of this frightful team is public debt. Taxation follows that, and in its train, wretchedness and oppression. So the debt is just, it's way out of control. They tell us there's 17 trillion in debt. I don't believe that. I believe it's much more than that. And there's all the unfunded liabilities. The government seems to prefer that the people are dependent upon the government for assistance and to survive. And I don't want to live in a country where over half the people don't have jobs and can't support their families, because that gives way too much power and control to those that hold the treasury and hold our money. There's another issue that has really concerned me, and that's the electrical grid. Our entire society is based upon electricity, and our electrical grid has never been secured against an electromagnetic pulse attack or against a solar flare. This is something, there's two bills in Congress that have been laboring there for years. One is called the SHIELD Act, the other is called the GRID Act. And Congress is sitting on their hands. They keep kicking this political football down the road, and eventually we're going to run out of road. And this is a major problem, because our very life depends upon the electrical grid. And this is a major problem, and there's not enough cornfields in all of Iowa to wish this problem away into. So that's one of the main things that I'm advocating for in this campaign, is to secure the grid. And I would finally finish up here with a tribute to all the soldiers out there, past and present and future, who have defended our way of life, defended our country. And without them, my speaking here today wouldn't be possible, and this fair wouldn't be possible. And it's so sad. They tell us there's 20 or so soldiers that commit suicide every day in this country because of the lack of mental health care and medical care, and they've just given up hope. So I would hope that all of us, if you know someone that has served and they're in a time of need, that you reach out to them, you talk to them, you help them whatever way you can. And I'm going to read this little poem. It's called Just a Common Soldier, and this was written on my grandfather's funeral program. He was getting old and paunchy, and his hair was falling fast. And he sat around the Legion, telling stories of the past, of a war that he had fought in, and the deeds that he had done. In his exploits with his buddies, they were heroes, everyone. And though sometimes to his neighbors, his tales became a joke, all his Legion buddies listened, for they knew whereof he spoke. But we'll hear his tales no longer, for old Frank has passed away, and the world's a little poorer, for a soldier died today. He will be mourned by many, including his children and his wife. He lived an ordinary and quite uneventful life. He held a job and raised a family, quietly going his own way. And the world won't note his passing, though a soldier died today. Should you find yourself in danger, with your enemies at hand, would you want a politician with his ever-shifting stand? Or would you prefer a soldier who has sworn to defend his home, his kin, and country, and would fight until the end? He was just a common soldier, and his ranks are growing thin. But his presence should remind us we may need his like again. For when countries are in conflict, then we find the soldier's part is to clean up all the troubles that the politicians start. If we cannot do him honor while he's here to hear the praise, then at least let's give him homage at the ending of his days. Perhaps just a simple headline in a paper that would say, "Our country is in mourning, for a soldier died today." I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank the Des Moines Register for this podium and the Iowa State Fair for the time. And if anyone has questions about my campaign, my name's Bryan Jack Holder. I'm running for the 3rd Congressional District. My website is holderforiowa.com. That's HOLDERFOR Iowa.com. Thank you.
Thank you. You bet. Thanks for joining us at the Political Soapbox. We'll be with you for the rest of the fair. Take care.